Welcome to the video. We're going to learn about comparison problems and see how to do these sorts of problems. So let's say we have a question that says, a red car moving at a speed v travels a distance s in a time t. How far does a blue car travel during a time 3t if the blue car is moving at a speed v over 2? Express your answer in terms of s. We have two cars and we're comparing their speeds and their quantities. So first we look and say, okay, we're asked how far. So what's the unknown if we're being asked how far? Well, they say how far does blue travel? So they're looking for blue's distance. That's going to be what we solve for. So we've got two cars, red and blue. I'm going to write the speed equation for both. Red's speed is equal to its distance divided by its time, and blue's speed is equal to its distance divided by its time. Now let's go through and figure out what we can plug in, what we could substitute in for the different values of for the different quantities for red and blue. Well, the first thing we're told about red is its speed is v. So right here for red's speed, I'm going to just put a regular v because that's what they're calling red speed in this problem. Okay, what do they tell us next about red? They said call the distance s. So red's distance, I'm going to replace that with an s. And then up here they said red travels for a time t. So here, instead of using the formal variable, I'm going to replace this with just a t, which is what they've told us to call red's time. Now we move on to the blue car. Blue car travels for a time 3t, so right here I'm going to plug in 3t, where t is, again, red's time is t, so blue doesn't travel for the same amount of time. Blue travels 3 times as long as red travels, 3t. Then they told us that blue moves at v over 2, so blue is traveling not at the same speed v as red, but at v over 2. Okay, they haven't given us anything for blue's distance because we're solving for it. How far does blue travel? That's what the question is asking. Okay, so solve for your unknown. Go ahead and isolate that unknown, d sub b. To isolate d sub b, I have to get it alone in the numerator, which means I have to get rid of the 3t. 3t is in the denominator, so I get rid of it by multiplying by 3t over 1. I multiply because then 3t divided by 3t is 1, and that cancels out on the right side. On the left side, I now have 3 halves times vt is equal to d sub b, blue's distance. That's my answer, except I'm not quite done. Right now my answer is expressed in terms of v and t, and I want my answer expressed in terms of s. So how do I get rid of the v and t? I have to look back over to red's equation. If I isolate s, I can multiply both sides by t, the t's cancel out, t over t is 1, and so now I have on the left v times t equals s. And when I isolate s like this, we see that you can plug in right here. V times t is equal to s. So I can replace that vt with s. And now we have our final answer. I have an answer for d sub b. I've solved for blue's distance, and I've expressed it in terms of s. So what's my final answer? This last line, 3 halves s equals blue's distance. Okay, here's another problem that's a little bit simpler, actually. A red car moving at a speed v travels a distance s in a time t. How fast does a blue car travel in terms of v if the blue car travels a distance 4s in a time 8t? Now, this time I'm looking for how fast does blue travel. That means I'm looking for blue's speed. Not the time, but I'm looking for blue's speed. I was given blue's time. So you start the same way. You have red and blue. Write the equation for red. Red's speed is red's distance over red's time. Blue's speed is blue's distance over blue's time. What do we know about red? They told us red moves at a speed v. So right here, I substitute in with v. And they said call red's distance. They said call it s. So here I'm going to plug in s. And they said call red's time just t. So right here in the denominator, I plug in a t. What can I substitute in for blue? Well, let's see. They said how fast does blue travel in terms of v? So v is red's speed. That's not blue's speed. we're trying to find blue's speed. So we're not going to plug anything in for blue's speed because that's our unknown. So it would be wrong to put a v right here. This is just telling us put your answer in terms of v. Okay, so what do they tell us? If not the speed of blue, what do they tell us about blue? Well, they said blue travels a distance 4s, so let me look at the distance here, replace it with 4s, and they said blue travels for a time 8t. So in the denominator, I replace with 8t. That's what I've substituted in for. Now we can represent this. We can simplify. 4 over 8 is 1/2, and what remains is s over t. Now notice what I've done. I've separated the values from the variables, and the reason is because now I can take this s over t. All right, so I've written it again, and now I can take s over t, which is equal to v. This s over t equals v, and I can substitute in. So by separating out these values 1/2, it's easy for me to see that s over t is right there, so that's what I can replace with a v. Just like this. So this is my final answer. I've solved for blue's speed, and I've expressed that answer in terms of v, which is just what they asked.